प्राइमरली क्योंकि अनिता जी की के वजह से ही ये कार्यक्रम हम कर रहे हैं, तो हम अंग्रेजी का अंश ज्यादा रहेगा। Good afternoon and Jai Hind, Anita ji. We are privileged to host you today for this memorable event of 80th, 80th birthday of NETAJI Subhash Chandra Bose, who proclaimed formation of provincial government of Azad Hind. Now it is long time, 80 years back. A son of the soil from India went to Far East, and there he proclaimed that India is a free nation, and he was the prime minister and the war minister of that cabinet. I have Anita ji. I will Subhashini Ali ji. Subhashini Ali ji was daughter of one of the most trusted lieutenant of Netaji. Her father and her mother both were the most trusted people of Netaji. I also have Mr. S. N. Sahu with us. Mr. S. N. Sahu, Antaji was worked with one of our most distinguished president, Mr. K. R. Narayanan. Worked with him as a vice president when he was vice president. Worked with him when he was president, and he has a long history. He knows a lot of history about Netaji especially. Mr. Sahu also have a distinction of being from the state which is the birthplace of Netaji, that is Odisha. So Mr. Sahu also, he is from that state. Anitaji, if you permit us, so I would like that Mr. Sahu gives us a background what happened on 21st October 1943, and then we join the discussion. If it is okay with you.
Certainly. It is okay. I'm looking forward to listening to Mr. Sahu to tell us what happened at the time.
Yes. Mr. Sahu, मैं आपसे आप अंग्रेजी में ही बोलिएगा क्योंकि बात की सुनने में आसानी रहेगी, बीच में थोड़ा हिंदी हम लोग कर लेंगे। आपसे आग्रह है कि ये जो पूरा 21 अक्टूबर 1943 में जो नेताजी ने प्रोक्लेमेशन मतलब जो अपनी प्रोविंशियल गवर्नमेंट का प्रोक्लेम किया था सिंगापुर में, उसका हिस्टोरिकल पर्सपेक्टिव बता दीजिए। What event took place on 21st October 1943? Mr. Sahu, and हम लोग थोड़ा ब्रीफ रखेंगे अपना, 5-7 मिनट में खत्म करेंगे, फिर 2-3 राउंड बात कर लेने में आसानी होगी। Mr. Sahu, please go ahead.
Thank you, Anand ji. It's a great honor to participate in a program where the legendary Netaji Subhash Bose's daughter Anita is with us, and I'm getting a platform to share, with her in this program, and of course another very distinguished Indian, the Subhashini Ali ji. She is also part of the legacy of Netaji. Her mother, her father, they are well-known Indians, well-known fighters for India's freedom, and therefore it's a singular honor I consider that this platform has been provided to me to share some thoughts. So today is a historic day because it is the day which celebrates the anniversary of the establishment of Azad Hind, government headed by Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose in East Asia. So it's a landmark day in our history because this is the second time when a provisional government was established outside India, and it was in 1915 Raja Mahendra Pratap established it in Afghanistan. And so in 1943 on 21st October when it was established, it was of a colossal scale and magnitude because of the support it enlisted from not only the soldiers of the Indian National Army but also from a huge segment of Indian population. So, it is a red-letter day which is celebrated the freedom of India from the colonial rule imposed on India by Britishers and so on and so forth. So, this is a remarkable day, because on that day, I was reading some years back the book by Hugh Stoy, The Swinging Tiger, when Mr. Narayanan, K.R. Narayanan, as Vice President of India, was to deliver a speech in Red Fort on the occasion of the birth anniversary of NETAJI Subhash Chandra Bose. So he made an interesting point in that speech. He said when Azad Hind Fauj, Azad Hind government was being formed, and Netaji was taking oath in the Prime Minister of Azad Hind government, one Sepoy of INA, he has been quoted by Hugh Stoy. He said in India, people have been driven by binary of Hindu Muslim binaries. People talk of Hinduism, Islam, and there was some kind of talk of partition of India. But here everything is reduced to Jai Hind. That was the remark of a sepoy of
somehow, yeah.
Azad Hind government, sepoy of Indian National Army. So therefore, you rightly, began your program by saying Jai Hind. So that actually captures the spirit of the, Azad Hind government, the spirit of INA, the spirit for which India stands for. Okay, so let me tell you that, it's important to go back to the Azad Hind government's proclamation, which was issued on that day. And it was signed by Netaji Subhash Bose and other ministers and others who were in charge on that occasion. You see, very strikingly, Netaji Subhash Bose in the Azad Hind proclamation, he said India was subjugated by British rule and challenges came from several quarters, and he mentions those names in the proclamation. Sirajuddaulah, then Amanullah, somebody from Bengal, and then he refers to, Hyder Ali, Tipu Sultan, and some other person from South. Then he refers to, names from Punjab, he refers to names from Maharashtra, he refers to Begums of Oudh, even the women who ruled, and then he refers to, he says that finally in 1857, the Great War of Independence, it was, he says it was under the flag of Bahadur Suj and Bahadur Shah Jafar. People participated, and he refers to Rani Jhansi, Rani of Jhansi, Lakshmi Bai, he refers to Tatya Tope, then so on and so forth. So you see, the Azad Hind government actually defended or upheld the idea of India, the inclusive idea of India. The names which he referred to, Hyder Ali, Tipu Sultan, and we know what all kinds of nonsense was being perpetrated in the name of Tipu Sultan in India. What all divisive tendencies are being generated in the name of Hindu-Muslim binaries. But look at Azad Hind Fauj, Azad Hind government, headed by Netaji. It actually upheld and defended the idea of India in a much more passionate manner, much more enthusiastic manner. Okay, so this is one point he referred to. And then Azad Hind Fauj was rooted in the ethos of the freedom movement. He said that, then there is a reference to Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi, he says, there is a reference to Indian National Congress, which is important to revisit that proclamation on this day. He said it was Indian National Congress which awakened the consciousness of the people. Initially it was based on agitation, propaganda, and some such methods for which the struggle for independence was carried forward. Then he says the striking, the important era emerged in India when Mahatma Gandhi's advent took place. when Mahatma Gandhi's advent took place, according to the Azad Hind government's proclamation, it actually took the cause of freedom to every household. That was the Azad Hind Fauj, Azad Hind government proclamation. Then he said it was Gandhi's, because of Gandhi, there was a political unity. India emerged as a single political entity. This is the, I read long back Azad Hind, the government's proclamation, but now I feel that it is much more important. And then he says, in that proclamation he talks about, this is what his idea of India. Then he talks about another aspect. He says that the Congress ministries during 37 and 39, they were formed in different provinces. They sold, Azad Hind the proclamation states, they sold the caliber and competence of Indians to manage administrative affairs. So therefore, then the last point I would like to flag, Azad Hind the government's proclamation, he said the objective of the Azad Hind government was to make India free from colonial rule. But this provisional government would become a permanent government only on the basis of the will of the people of India. Okay, so till that time, the government would continue, and after that, the will of the people will determine the scope of the Azad Hind government. So in other words, it left it to the will of the people to have a permanent government. So this is, here there is a democratic content, the idea of India, inclusive India, and then the ability to manage the affairs of administration after the formation of the government. And he goes back to the Congress ministries during 37, 39. So therefore, today when people talk of how we are down below many other countries in terms of democratic index, in terms of governance, of our country and so on and so forth, that region is now under attack.
Okay.
So therefore, by celebrating today the Azad Hind Government Formation Day, we are celebrating the idea of India and the necessity to take a vow to defend that idea of India, which was conjured up by Netaji, his INA, and so on and so forth. I will come back again in the next round. Thank you.
Okay. Anitaji, I mean, one of the things which we all look towards Netaji as our leader. Gandhi ji for us is more of a guru, more of someone whom we look toward them, but someone who can guide us. But Netaji is someone who can lead us. We always, as a role model, when we are, though we are knowing Netaji is no more, but when we are growing up, stories of Netaji, the way he was committed and things like that. I just want to know, as a daughter, which was the most significant, most overwhelming trait which you feel? His sensitivity, his commitment, his love for his country, his attitude, his never say die attitude. Which is the most remarkable thing which you feel that Netaji had? Because when we see he is a complete thing.
Let me start with one comment, a fact about which you did not ask me, but there was an undercurrent in your words that you felt there was a distinction between Gandhiji and Netaji. Let me add one thing. Both of them were greatly committed to one thing, that is liberating their country. And in that, many of the simple men and women joined them after all without a mass movement. Neither Gandhiji nor Netaji could have done anything. So it's not a question of, even if they disagreed on some of the minor points, there is no question of there ever having been enemies. And when first of all, Netaji greatly respected Gandhiji in spite of the differences they had. And Gandhiji at the end himself said Netaji was a patriot of patriots. And it's my personal feeling, even I don't know that at the end, when India was partitioned and Gandhiji was very unhappy about that, and Netaji, of course, was no longer alive to witness this, for him, heartbreak. They might have made a difference together, but this is speculation. As far as our generation, Subhashini and myself, I think we can all say that being the children of freedom fighters, we are all brothers and sisters. So I'm very happy to see my sister Subhashini in the same program today. And by the way, in another program, the freedom fighters were brothers and sisters, or if of a different generation, parents and children, and we are two. Let me add one thing to the words of Sahuji. I don't want to repeat what he said. The proclamation of India's independence did not come about all of a sudden. It was the result, and maybe also the climax, after a development which took place many years before, and it was directed, in my opinion, towards two aspects. That is, one towards the inside, towards India, to signify the independence of a sovereign state, and on the other hand, towards the other countries, to signal that India is an independent state. And of course, you might say the fact that only 9 countries recognize that state is not very much, but I think it has a very symbolic meaning, and in that sense, I think it was important, not just as a function, but also as a statement, for example, vis-a-vis Japan, that India is not just somebody asking for help, but it's a power eventually to be reckoned with. And Netaji had the privilege of participating in the conference of leaders of the world, of East Asian leaders of the world at that time, and he was there as the representative of India, not just as a minor person, but he was accorded a very prominent position in that. And I think for that, the proclamation of independence of India was very important. And I think it also followed in other steps, insofar that even when Netaji was Rashtrapati, in the sense of being president of the Congress, he had a very practical view of what should be done. The fact that Congress didn't always want to go along with him is a different matter, but after all, by training, he was also an administrator. I mean, he, after all, had passed the civil service exam, which was a rather prestigious thing at the time. And so he had a very practical mind also about what India was supposed to be. And in many ways, for those days, he had a very modern view of India. And not only in India, but also in other parts of the world, we can see that maybe even by today's standards, he would have been modern in many ways. And of course, for Subhashini and me, maybe one aspect of this modernity is particularly important. That is his recognition of women in a modern India. And maybe he was very extreme in that even. And Subhashini's mother, Lakshmi Swaminathan at the time, I think was the one person who could fought that and provided also to be a woman who was willing to take up arms, to take up leadership. And I think in any country today, women have to play an important role, and if they don't, it is to the disadvantage of that country in many ways. India also, in Netaji's view and in the proclamation of independence, was to be a secular state with respect for religion and with respect to all religions. And in many parts of the world, unfortunately also in India, there is something lacking in that way. I think religion is abused and misused too much by many people for negative things, whereas it could provide a very positive aspect in all countries, and not just one religion sort of being the only possible way. And if you mentioned Gandhiji before, he was another person who looked at religions in a very tolerant way, even like Netaji being a devout Hindu, respected all other religions. And I think if we look back 80 years, we can be proud and happy that India took a step at that time in a very modern way to approach the future of India, and we can only hope that India will remain to be on the forefront of modernity forever in the future as well. Jai Hind.
थैंक यू अनिता जी. सुभाषिनी जी, मैं अपने दर्शकों को बता दूं, एक मिनट में, अनिता जी का मूल रूप से कहना है कि नेताजी की जो व्यूज थे वो बहुत मॉडर्न थे और समय से आगे देखते थे. सुभाषिनी जी, इसी बात को आगे बढ़ा दें. जो उस समय आज से 80 साल 90 साल पहले एक व्यक्ति जो वुमेन एम्पावरमेंट को देखता ही नहीं था, उसको प्रैक्टिस में लाते थे, आज जो भारत की हालत, आपको दुख होता है कि आपको गुस्सा आता है आज भारत की दशा देखकर, क्योंकि इसके लिए आपके माता पिता, इसके लिए नेताजी, क्या इस आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया के लिए उन्होंने लड़े थे, कुर्बानी दी थी?
नहीं, देखिए ऐसा है कि वो तो नहीं लड़े थे, और मतलब अनीता जी भी यही कहेंगी, मेरे माँ बाप भी इस तरह के भारत के लिए नहीं लड़े थे. लेकिन मुझे लगता है कि आज लोगों को समझना बहुत ज़रूरी है कि नेताजी क्या चाहते थे इस देश के लिए. क्योंकि आप जानते हैं कि जो आज की हमारी सरकार है, वो जब भी उनको ऐसा लगता है कि हाँ नेताजी का नाम लेने का समय आ गया है, तो वो ये कोशिश करते हैं कि नेताजी का नाम लेते हैं, उनकी मूर्ति बना देते हैं, ये कहते हैं कि ये बहुत महान थे, और इस तरह से कहते हैं कि जैसे कि बाकी जो लोग जो बाद में प्रधानमंत्री बने, नेहरू वगैरह, वो उतने महान नहीं थे.
Do you want to know the power of compounding money in the stock market? We Indians normally invest in real estate, fixed deposit. Both have done poorly in the last 10 years. So how can you compound money? Well, you can compound money by investing in stock market. I didn't say trading, by investing in stock market. Now, what is investing? Investing is selecting diversified quality businesses and staying invested and letting the money grow. But how? How do you select these companies? Learn all about this in my 2 hours free online stock market class. It's a free masterclass. Click on the link below and register, and I'll see you in that free masterclass.
According to a recent survey, 71% of educators and teachers in USA admitted that they are using ChatGPT. So if you are a teacher or an educator, the best thing you can do right now is learn art of using ChatGPT and other AI tools. Hi, my name is Aditya Kachwe. I am a graduate of IIT Kharagpur and co-founder of multiple 8-figure companies like Mad About Sport, Beat, NX and Muni EdTech. In my 2 hours workshop, I am going to teach you how you can leverage ChatGPT by giving killer prompts, and also I am going to teach you multiple AI tools which will make you 10x more efficient. Not only this, we are also going to discuss, is AI going to take your job, and if yes, then how you can save it. And all these things I am going to cover in 2 hours only at price point of rupees 9. And if you register before tonight, I have also included bonuses worth 10,500 rupees. So it is a no-brainer to join this workshop. So see you in workshop.
एक भारत के बारे में, और भारत जब आजाद होगा तो वो कैसा भारत होगा, उसकी एक तस्वीर उनके दिमाग में थी। और देखिए, इसमें कोई ये नहीं था जो लोग आजकल कहते हैं अरे सेक्युलरिज्म, ये तो बड़े कमजोर किस्म के लोग हैं सेक्युलरिज्म। वो ये मानते थे कि सेक्युलरिज्म अपने आप में तो अच्छी चीज है ही, लेकिन इसके बगैर ये मुल्क चल ही नहीं सकता है, ये देश चल ही नहीं सकता। ये समझना बहुत जरूरी है। आज के लोगों को मालूम होना चाहिए कि उन्होंने जो अपना झंडा चुना, तो वो कांग्रेस का तिरंगा झंडा तो था, लेकिन बीच टीपू सुल्तान का, जो स्प्रिंगिंग टाइगर जिसको हम कहते हैं, वो टीपू सुल्तान के झंडे पर हुआ करता था। तो ये कोई छोटी बात नहीं है कि जो आजाद भारत को भारत के बाहर घोषित कर रहे हैं कि आज हमारी पहली सरकार है आजाद भारत की, वो अपने झंडे के बीच में टीपू सुल्तान के शेर को डालते हैं। ये कहते हैं कि हमारी लड़ाई आज नहीं शुरू हुई है, हमारी लड़ाई अंग्रेजों के खिलाफ बहुत पहले शुरू, जिनका हम यहाँ पर उनका प्रतीक था, उसको हम अपने झंडे में जोड़ रहे हैं। इसके साथ ही अभी अनीता जी ने कई बातें बताई कि वो वास्तव में एक अंतरराष्ट्रीय नेता के रूप में माने जाते थे। सिर्फ यही नहीं कि जो जर्मनी या जापान के साथ लोग थे वो मानते थे, और भी तमाम एशिया के लोग उनको एक नेता के रूप में देखते थे। और इसके पहले वो यूरोप के कई देशों में घूम चुके थे, वहाँ के नेताओं से, खासतौर से जो आयरलैंड के नेताओं के साथ उनका रिश्ता था, ईमान के साथ। तो जब ये आज़ाद हिंद को उन्होंने आज अर्जी हुकूमत को, प्रोविजनल गवर्नमेंट डिक्लेयर किया, तो आयरलैंड से भी उनको मैसेज मिला। उन्होंने कहा भाई हम आपको पूरी तरह से मान्यता नहीं दे सकते हैं, लेकिन हम आपके साथ हैं। तो उनका बहुत बड़ा पूरी दुनिया में एक असर था, एक प्रभाव था, और एशिया के अंदर तो खैर था ही। बाकी ये जो उन्होंने सरकार की घोषणा की, तो आपको याद होना चाहिए कि जब वो कांग्रेस में थे, तो कांग्रेस में जो प्लानिंग कमीशन बनाई गई थी, उसको भी बनाने में उनका बहुत बड़ा हाथ था। वो फिर उन्होंने नेहरू को अध्यक्ष भी बनाया। तो प्लानिंग का उनके दिमाग में पहले से ही था कि पंचवर्षीय योजनाएं होनी चाहिए, एक गरीब देश को विकास करने के लिए योजनाबद्ध तरीके से काम करना आवश्यक है। ये तब भी उनके दिमाग में था, और जब उन्होंने प्रोक्लेमेशन दी तब भी उनके प्रोक्लेमेशन में है। तो मतलब उनके दिमाग में सिर्फ बंदूक उठा करके लड़ना ही नहीं था, लड़ करके भारत को आजाद करने के बाद कैसा भारत बनेगा, इसके बारे में भी बहुत स्पष्ट तस्वीर उनके दिमाग में थी। और हिंदू मुस्लिम एकता तो वो बुनियाद थी, इसको अंग्रेजी में बेडरॉक कहते हैं। वो बुनियाद थी जिसके बगैर भारत का निर्माण उनके लिए संभव ही नहीं था। और मैं आपको ये भी बता दूं, बहुत लोग जानते नहीं हैं कि जाति प्रथा के बारे में भी उनकी बहुत संवेदनशीलता थी। उन्होंने इसके खिलाफ भी लड़ाई लड़ी। और जब वो एक छात्र थे, तो वहां पर एक दलित छात्र था जो बहुत बीमार हो गया, और नेताजी उसके कमरे में जाकर के रहे और उसकी देखभाल की। अब एक बीमार की देखभाल क्या क्या करना पड़ता है, आप सब लोग जानते हैं। वो सब कुछ उन्होंने उस दलित बच्चे के लिए किया। और ये तब की बात मैं बता रही हूँ, मतलब मेरे ख्याल से 1920 के दशक की बात होगी, जब ये चीजें बिल्कुल होती नहीं थी। परिवार के लोग भी नहीं पसंद करते थे अपने परिवार के सदस्य की सफाई करना, और तब उन्होंने ये काम किया। तो जाति प्रथा के बारे में, दूसरे धर्मों को मानने वालों के बारे में उनकी जो सोच थी, वो आज के हमारे भारत की सोच के बहुत आगे है। और महिलाओं के बारे में मैं एक आपको बताना चाहूंगी जो शायद बहुत कम लोगों को मालूम है। उनके साथ जो उनके बिल्कुल उनकी परछाई थे, आबिद हसन, जिन्होंने जय हिंद का भी नारा, जब वो आ रहे थे पनडुब्बी में उनके साथ, तो वो लिखते हैं, बाद में उनका बड़ा इंटरव्यू छपा है, कि नेताजी की आदत थी कि वो एक पूरी स्पीच को पहले डिक्टेट करते थे, फिर उसको फाड़ के फेंक देते थे, उनको याद हो जाता था। तो उस पनडुब्बी में, अब आप सोचिए, अभी वो पहुंचे नहीं है, अभी आजाद हिंद फौज के नेता बने नहीं है, कुछ भी नहीं हुआ है, लेकिन उन्होंने एक भाषण तैयार किया जो वो रानी ऑफ झांसी रेजिमेंट के सामने सुनाते कि ये रानी ऑफ झांसी महिला टुकड़ी हम लोग क्यों बना रहे हैं, महिलाओं की क्या भूमिका है आजादी की लड़ाई में, उनसे हम कितनी उम्मीद करते हैं, और ये सारी बातें आप सोचिए। उन्होंने तब इस स्पीच को लिखा जब वो आ रहे थे, उनको ये भी नहीं मालूम था कि वो जिंदा सिंगापुर पहुंचेंगे कि नहीं पहुंचेंगे। और उस स्पीच को अगर आप पढ़ें तो मैं नहीं समझती हूँ कि हमारे देश में आज तक इस तरह का भाषण महिलाओं के बीच में किसी ने दिया है, और दिल से दिया। उन्होंने कहा, उन्होंने लड़ाई लड़ी, जो उनके दोस्त थे सिंगापुर में भारतीय, जो इंडिया इंडिपेंडेंस लीग के लोग थे, उन्होंने कहा ये तो हो ही नहीं सकता, क्या बात आप कर रहे हैं, जापानी नहीं तैयार होंगे, कहने ना तैयार हो, मैं उसके लिए अलग से चंदा इकट्ठा करूंगा। फिर उन्होंने कहा कि नहीं, कहाँ से औरतें मिलेंगी, तो कहने लगे आप तो यही बात कहते हैं, कहाँ से औरतें मिलेंगी, आप एक पढ़ी लिखी महिला मेरे सामने लाई और हम सेना टुकड़ी खड़ी करके दिखाएंगे। और उन्होंने कहा आप लोग भारतीय महिलाओं को जानते नहीं हैं, उनकी हिम्मत और उनकी जिद को आप पहचानते नहीं हैं। अगर वो एक बार कुछ ठान लेती हैं तो बिल्कुल पीछे हटने को तैयार नहीं होती हैं, बस मौका उनको चाहिए। और ये महिलाएं केवल अपने देश की आजादी के लिए नहीं लड़ रही होंगी, ये अपनी आजादी के लिए भी लड़ रही होंगी, इसलिए उनकी जो लड़ने की ताकत होगी वो कहीं ज्यादा होगी। और उन्होंने फिर बन के देखी, तो उनके अंदर केवल ये नहीं कि वो अच्छी अच्छी मीठी मीठी बातें करते थे, जो वो कहते थे उसको वो मानते थे, और उसको वो लागू करने के लिए, क्रियान्वयन उसका करने के लिए हमेशा तैयार रहते थे। आप जानते हैं कि जब वो पहुंचे बर्मा में, तो सबसे पहले वो जब आजाद हिंद फौज के साथ गए, तो सबसे पहले वो बहादुर शाह जफर की कब्र पर, उनकी मजार पर गए, उस पर चादर चढ़ाया, और उन्होंने वहां पर वचन दिया कि अगर मैं भारत लौटूंगा तो आपके अवशेष को मैं लेकर के जाऊंगा वापस, और लाल किले में जहां आपको दफनाया जाना चाहिए वहां मैं आपको दफनाऊंगा। आज तक हिंदुस्तान के किसी भी नेता ने ऐसा करने की हिम्मत नहीं जुटाई है। तो ये असली चीजें थी उनके चरित्र के बारे में। और आज के दिन आप देखिए, हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जो रोज ट्वीट करते हैं, लेकिन आज उन्होंने कोई ट्वीट नहीं किया है इतने महत्वपूर्ण मौके पर। और हम तो एक तरह से सोचते हैं कि वो शायद हम उनके ट्वीट का स्वागत भी नहीं करते, लेकिन क्योंकि किसी भी विषय में वो नेताजी के सिद्धांतों को मानने वाले नहीं है। आज जो बड़ा युद्ध चल रहा है उसके बारे में भी नेताजी ने उस जमाने में बात करी थी जब ये मतलब इजराइल अस्तित्व में आया नहीं था, लेकिन फिलिस्तीन की जनता के अधिकारों के बारे में तब उन्होंने बात रखी थी। तो ये सारी बातें हमारे देश के लोगों को याद करना चाहिए, और उनके नाम को लेकर के जिस तरह की चीजों को बढ़ावा देने की कोशिश सरकार कर रही है, इसको समझना चाहिए कि ये छलावा है। और नेताजी क्या थे, नेताजी क्या चाहते थे, इसको समझने की जरूरत है आज हमारे देश में, और लोगों को भी है, आम लोगों को। तो नेताजी की पूजा करते हैं, पूजा मत करो भैया, उनके विचारों को समझो और उनके विचारों को पसंद करो, ये ज्यादा जरूरी।
सुभाषिनी जी, आई विल रिक्वेस्ट यू, ये जो बहादुर शाह जफर की बात है उसको थोड़ा अंग्रेजी में कर दें, जिससे अनिता जी भी समझ लें कि व्हाट
when Netaji moved with the INA troops to Burma, he went to visit the grave of Bahadur Shah Zafar, and he placed a chadar there, green sheet, and he sort of made a vow that if I ever go back to India, I will take your remains with me, and I will see that they are given an honorable burial in the Red Fort alongside your ancestors. It's a great tragedy that none of our rulers since then have had the courage to do that, but that really should be done. But this shows what Netaji was. Whatever he said was what he believed in. Whatever he said, he was willing to practice. As far as his understanding of women and women's rights are concerned, he had the courage, in spite of opposition from everybody, not just the Japanese, but his own colleagues. He set up a women's regiment and trained them exactly like the men were trained, and said, you have to go and fight. And he said, these women are going to be fighting not only for India's independence, but for their own freedom. So they will fight much more. They will fight much harder and with greater commitment. The flag that he chose had Tipu Sultan's springing tiger in the center, where the charkha used to be, the Congress charkha. And that's not a small thing. He was not only connecting his struggle to Tipu Sultan's struggle and to the history of the freedom movement, but he was saying Tipu Sultan was as great a patriot as anybody else. And he was right, because it was the British who said that their only real rival in India whom they feared was Tipu Sultan, and they celebrated his defeat and his death. We forget all these things, unfortunately. It's tragic. We forget our own history, and it is said about people who forget their own history that they are going to be, they are going to be damned to, a bad future if they do this. So we need to learn from Netaji. Our Prime Minister is not bothered to give greetings today on such an important historic day, and maybe it's just as well, because at least I don't think, and many like me don't think, that he is really at all, he is not at all true to Netaji's legacy. Netaji stood for everything that our present government does not stand for. But people in India need to stop worshipping Netaji. They need to start understanding what he stood for and what kind of country he would have tried to build had he been able to come back to India and join in this very exciting project of building an independent India, which he would have been a very important part of. You need to know what his ideas was. He was interested in planning. He set up a planning commission. When he was president of the Congress, nobody else did that. He did it. And he made Jawaharlal Nehru the chairperson of that planning commission. So he had an understanding of how a poor country needs planned development. He had an understanding of how, without secularism, without unity of people, you can't build a nation. He had all this understanding, and he understood that 50% of the population needs to be given its place in the sun if a country is to move forward. These are very important things that we need to learn today.
Thanks so much, Subhashini ji. Anita ji, if you can connect yourself with this WhatsApp call, because audio we are getting it through WhatsApp call. Can we check? We are not getting audio. We'll get your audio through WhatsApp call. In the meantime, I am asking Mr. S. N. Sahu, if you can again connect it. साहू साहब, जल्दी से एक आप जो वो बात बताते हैं जब INA के लोग रेड फोर्ट में बंदी थे, वो जो पानी वाली बात थी, हिंदू पानी मुस्लिम पानी, वो एक इफ यू कैन जस्ट चाय क्विकली टेल दैट थिंग.
एक्चुअली महात्मा गांधी जेल गए INA सोल्जर्स को.
नहीं, आप अंग्रेजी में करिए, जिससे अंग्रेजी में करिए वो भी सुन लें.
Okay, so when INA soldiers were captured by the British rulers, and they were kept in prison, Mahatma Gandhi in 1946 he went to the prison to see them. And while interacting with them, they told Gandhiji that we fought for India as Indians, not as Hindus or Muslims or Christians. But here in that jail, they said, they were being served the Hindu tea and Muslim tea, Hindu pani and Muslim pani. This is what Gandhi wrote. Apart from Hindu tea and Muslim tea, Hindu pani and Muslim pani. And then because that before independence of India, there was a very, very, very obnoxious tradition of selling tea and water in the name of religion. In railway stations, Gandhi wrote that Hindu tea and Muslim tea, or Hindu pani, Muslim pani, the vendors used to shout and attract customers, and accordingly the tea and the water, the beverages were being sold. So then Gandhi, when he heard that account from INA soldiers, he asked them, how do you deal with that problem when you get Hindu tea, Muslim tea, Hindu pani, Muslim pani, and you are very deeply anguished by that. So how do you deal with that? Then they told, well, we take Hindu tea, Muslim tea and mix them and then, consume. They used to consume that. So Gandhi said, I had a hearty laugh. Then he wrote, which is very significant, This is what Netaji taught his soldiers, not to make any distinction on the basis of religion. So then, I was talking about earlier the Azad Hind, the government's proclamation. In that proclamation there is a line that the Azad Hind government would treat everybody equally, will provide opportunities equally, and there won't be any distinction based on religion, distinctions of Indians based on religion, which is so important a point. And then he says that the distinctions based on religion were fostered by the British regime. The Azad Hind government, he said that was, exactly, he said that, that was a kind of a ploy, a conspiracy of Indians to keep us divided, which is very significant. So, in the context of the unity of India, he was talking about unity of India. There is a repeated references to the unity of India in the Azad Hind government's proclamation, and that unity is now under assault when people see, for instance, see, for instance, let me tell you, I wrote an article, quoting Netaji's from Netaji's book. When he was leaving India, when he left India in 1941, he met Mahatma Gandhi, and he said that I had a very pleasant interaction. And Gandhi told, if you can liberate India through armed struggle, you will get the first congratulatory message, from Gandhiji. That's what he said. Then he said he met Jinnah, and he told Jinnah that on India becoming independent, you would be the prime minister of the country. This I learned for the first time. After reading that book, what is that? Suhasini Aliji can help me. What is that book name? That is Destiny, some Destiny, or Pilgrim, that name of the book. I have a copy of the book. So he said, I told Jinnah, you were?
Pilgrim story. A pilgrim
a pilgrim story, that is the book. I have a copy. So when I read that book, I was astounded, because deep in my mind I had the impression that it was Gandhi who told Jinnah that forget about partition of India, you become the prime minister and then put all Muslims in important positions. This is what that narrative was there in my mind. But then when I said, my God, 41 itself, he had told Jinnah, no, don't go for partition. On India becoming independent, you would be the prime minister. You see, that was his vision. Let anybody be prime minister, but let India be kept together, united. So this is what, the other example, of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose was that after meeting Jinnah, he also met Savarkar. In that book, he wrote that the Savarkar, nothing would be expected from people like Savarkar, because he is only interested in recruiting Hindus to British Army. So therefore he was also disappointed meeting Savarkar. See, for instance, in the Azad Hind government proclamation, there is no reference to those fellows who were talking about Hindutva, or those fellows who were talking about, defining India in terms of one religion. There are references to Gandhi, there are references to, the Bahadur Shah Zafar, there are references to the freedom fighters from different parts of India. So he never, he said in another book that, India cannot be, Mughal rule cannot be described as the rule of the Muslims only. He said there are Hindus, there are other faiths, people of other faiths, all participated in that rule. So this kind of narrative which is now being spun by the present regime, the 1200 saal ki gulami, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose should have been furious with such a narrative, which is very divisive. Dog whistles, those narratives are used as dog whistles to target the Muslims. See, I remember when Mr. Narayanan is the Vice President of India, he participated in the centenary of Netaji's birth anniversary. He said that Netaji Subhash Chandra is Congress President. He talked about special safeguards for the minorities of India. And that legacy of Netaji was carried forward, subsequently by the government. It is now part of the constitutional scheme of governance for India. So, therefore, it is important to, recall that vision.
सुभाषिनी जी कुछ कहना चाह रही हैं?
नहीं, वो बीच में साहू जी ने वो सावरकर की कोई बात कही, तो इस वक्त एक बहुत झूठी खबर फैलाई जा रही है कि सावरकर ने सुभाष चंद्र बोस को ये राय दी कि आप विदेश में जाकर के भारत की आजादी की लड़ाई लड़िए। ये बिल्कुल बकवास है, बिल्कुल झूठ है। आप सुभाष चंद्र बोस जी को पढ़िए हिंदू महासभा के बारे में। उनको चिढ़ नहीं थी हिंदू महासभा से, उनको नफरत थी। एज कांग्रेस प्रेसिडेंट उन्होंने कहा कि कोई भी कांग्रेस का सदस्य अगर मुस्लिम लीग या हिंदू महासभा का मेंबर बनेगा, उसको कांग्रेस से मैं निकाल दूंगा। And in Bengal, he exhorted, he told his party people, don't allow them even to hold a public meeting, Hindu Mahasabha, because they do nothing but spread poison. And let me tell you, Savarkar also did not like Netaji at all. Not only did he recruit soldiers for the British army, but he used to use the most atrocious language for Netaji, and he even objected to Netaji using Urdu words, because the slogan of the Indian National Army, the provisional government, was Ittihad, Etimad, Qurbani. These are all three Urdu words, beautiful words and wonderful sentiments. But Savarkar objected to that. Azad Hind, he objected to that. He objected to everything that Netaji stood for. So I think this is very important to remember.
Very important, yes. Sipa Salar, also that word. Sipa Salar was used by Netaji. I wrote an article last year in The Wire, where how Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose offended Urdu, and now Urdu is being vilified. There are some chief ministers in BJP ruled states, they are taking a stand against Urdu, which is very, very, it is a negation of the vision of Netaji, to whom they want to, appropriate, which they cannot do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Anita ji, I mean, one last, we are going to sum this up. There are few of my guests who just want to understand the relationship between, as you see, between Nehruji and Netaji. Do you feel that it was a strained relationship, or there was a camaraderie, or they were fighting for the same cause, but maybe with a slightly different attitude? Nehru and Netaji.
Nehru and Netaji, of course, were birds of a feather in many ways.
Yes.
They were brothers, they were friends. On a personal level, for example, Netaji took care of the wife of Kamala Nehru when she was sick and she came to Europe, and he was in exile here too. He met Nehru in Basel and went to see Kamala together. He was present when Kamala died and offered his head to Nehru. So that was the personal level. They were birds of a feather in other ways too. They were both leftist leaders, and even though very often there are some people who depict my father as a fascist and right-wing man, because he sought the support of fascist Germany and at that time also fascist Japan. He was a leftist leader. Today you might say a socialist or a social democrat. And so was Nehru. And I think the vision of India, not as a divided India, I want to emphasize, as you had just emphasized before, but as a united India of many religions and a secular state, was very similar to what Nehru had in mind. I mean, there were differences, and there were also personal disappointments. For example, Netaji was very disappointed, particularly since he was close to Nehru, when Nehru did not side with him when he had a difference with Gandhi. and Nehru sort of sat on the fence and tried not to get himself involved for whichever reasons there might have been. But as I said before, with Gandhi, they were all freedom fighters. Of course, there was one aspect where Netaji did not agree with a number of them and would have never compromised. There were leaders of Congress and freedom fighters who in 1939 said, well, let us support Britain against her enemies during this war, and let us side with them, provided they will give us freedom afterwards. Of course, Britain at that time had no intention of giving India freedom, and Netaji would have never considered collaborating with Britain at the time. So that this is one great difference with many of the others. And I think it, however, is necessary to see what India's freedom meant for the men and women of that generation. I think it was exceedingly important for them, and their personal differences were rather minor compared to that.
Okay. Anthony, if you can again log in with your laptop, because we have your WhatsApp, we can hear you, but we cannot see you. So actually, yeah. If you can again, we are just closing it in next 5-6 minutes.
Anandji, I would just also want to thank you for organizing this function. I think to remember India's first free government was indeed very important. And on the other hand, I would also want to thank you that you asked Sahuji and Subhashini to speak in English on my account, because my Hindi is really far too minimal to follow and participate in Hindi. Thank you very much, and all of you.
Anitaji, just for the benefit of my listeners, but you understand what Jamai is, because last time when I talked to you, you understood that when Netaji went to I mean, what a Jamai is.
Jamai, yeah, sure.
Jamai Babu. You know what Jamai Babu is?
Yeah.
Yeah, she knows what Jamai Babu is, and so आशीष जी मैं बस क्लोज कर रहा हूँ आपसे एक हाँ आप कुछ पूछ रहे थे साउसा
No, regarding Nehru, the 2 points need to be flagged. Number one is that when Prime Minister Nehru delivered that speech from Red Fort on 15th August 1947, he only referred to two names. First name is that of Mahatma Gandhi, second was that of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. He said, I quote, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose would have been very happy to see his wish coming true. Because he said we will go to Delhi Chalo, Lal Killa mein, the Indian National Army will organize a victory march. Nehru, in fact, referred to that, plus he was the lawyer. He was the lawyer who defended Indian National Army in that famous trial.
जी साहब साहब ये सुभाषी जी कुछ कह रहे हैं सुभाषी जी प्लीज क्लोज भी कर दीजिएगा
हाँ हमसे पूछने वाले थे
जी मैं सिर्फ ये मैं आपसे सिर्फ ये पूछ रहा था कि आज मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि आप सबसे सीनियर मोस्ट मतलब जो आज़ाद हिंद फौज के जो लोग हिंदुस्तान में रहेंगे उसमें सबसे सीनियर मोस्ट हैं अनिता जी हैं लेट अस डिसाइड समथिंग कि अगली बार हम लोग अनिता जी को एक बार हिंदुस्तान बुलाएं और
she's not able to travel because of her health. The last time she came to India, she fell seriously ill. But we can try. We can try.
Because that will be an honor and that will be a मतलब ये एक बहुत से लोगों को के लिए ये बहुत बड़ी बात होगी कि
I don't know what Martin will say to that, Anita. Will Martin give permission?
He will stay behind, I think, because my husband is now 84 and long distance travel is too strenuous for him. But I think I will come to India, hopefully on the occasion of returning Netaji's remains from Japan to India.
Yes, really.
Okay. Yeah,
यस सो सुभाषिनी जी, दो शब्द आप इसमें भी लोगों को बता दीजिए कि वापस क्यों नहीं आ पा रहे हैं जापान से, हम अभी तक नेताजी की अस्थियां नहीं ला पा रहे हैं।
ये तो किसी के समझ में आने वाली बात ही नहीं है। मतलब आप समझिए कि अब तो सारी चीज प्रमाणित हो चुकी है कि लोग जो वहाँ पे मौजूद थे जब ये सब हुआ, अगर आप कृष्णा बोस जी जो उनकी मतलब शिशिर बोस की वाइफ थी, उनका पूरा अकाउंट देखें, शिशिर बोस का देखें, जापानियों का देखें, आई विटनेसेस के उनके रात को वहाँ रखा गया। अब प्रॉब्लम क्या है कि उनके साथ जो प्लेन में थे हबीबुर रहमान साहब, वो पाकिस्तान चले गए हैं। अब यहाँ पर कहा जाता भाई हम उनकी बात को कैसे मानिए, तो बेकार की बातें हैं। सवाल ये है कि उसके अलावा तो कहीं भी किसी ने कोई चीज प्रमाणित नहीं की है कि नेताजी कहीं दिखाई दिए या कहीं वो बीमार पड़े या कहीं उनको कुछ हुआ। वही एक जगह है जिसके बारे में सब तरफ से बात आ रही है कि ये उनकी राख है और ये उस टेम्पल में टोक्यो के अंदर रखे हुए हैं। और जब उनकी अकेली औलाद कह रही बार बार कि भाई आप हमारा डीएनए टेस्ट करा लीजिए उन अवशेषों के साथ, तो क्यों नहीं उनके एशेस को लाया जा रहा है, आज तक मेरी तो समझ में नहीं आया। बस यही हो सकता है कि लोग डरते हों कि उनकी जब वो लौटेंगे तो जनता में ऐसा उबाल आएगा कि सारे नेता बोने लगेंगे। तो बोने तो है ही नेता, क्या किया तो आज भी बोने लग रहे हैं। तो क्या कारण है कुछ समझ में नहीं आता है, लेकिन हम लोग सब चाहते हैं कि वो आए वापस और उनको इज्जत यहाँ अब उनके देश में दी जाए।
जी जी। Now we are closing the whole thing. Anitaji, it was extremely, I mean, we are so grateful that you joined us. It was,
Thank you,
I mean,
thank you, Anand ji, for inviting her and giving us all the opportunity, and me especially to meet her. It's wonderful to meet even like this. I now have to come to Germany. I think. Yes. Yes.
yeah. Thank you so much, Anitaji, Subhashi ji, and Sausa. Thank you so much. Thank you. Jai Hind. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind. Jai Hind.